now.
Hi everyone, like I said, this is us Future Skills Prime, and this is Future Skills Prime Knowledge Series. So, welcome to the Future Skills Prime Knowledge Series. As a part of Knowledge Series, our idea is to get you experts who are, expert in certain technology who would help you while you are moving with these self-paced trainings on our platform. So today we have Praveen, who is a part of Cisco and as a part of Cisco Netacad partner. So Praveen has, Praveen is a cybersecurity professional with years of experience in the field of application security, cloud security, cyber risk management, and software development. So he holds industry certification like CISM, CISSP, and I mean, a lot of C's there, cybers. So he's passionate about information security and data privacy and a keen observer of emerging technology. Uh, we have Praveen, and I think I requested Praveen to have every audience of ours catered while we do this session, and hence he has bifurcated his session very wonderfully for each and everybody. This is applicable to anyone who is just entering this technology, to somebody who is not in cybersecurity and is working for a number of years in some other area like manufacturing, or is at somebody who's a business decision maker. How does this impact them, and how does it make a difference for them? So Praveen, I would just hand over this session to you, and I will be here to see if there are some Q&As, and if we want to have some breakouts in between. Thank you.
Sure, Anjana. Thank you very much. So, folks, as Anjana mentioned, there is something for everyone. So, please sit back and relax while I take you through this journey of cybersecurity. So, probably you are someone who have just entered a professional life and starting your career, or you could be someone who have spent some few number of years and quite inquisitive to know what is cybersecurity and probably want to explore some opportunities in cybersec space. Or you could be someone who has spent years and years experienced professional, and you want to understand how the threat landscape looks like, what are the threats that organization or public or the government is facing. So there is some content for every one of us. So we will start with some fundamentals. Of course, everything has to begin with the basics. So we'll touch upon what cybersecurity is, have a common understanding what data security and privacy is, because as you know, in last couple of years, data privacy have become a big concern. So it was like 10 years back where cybersecurity is, that's where data privacy is currently in. It's more like in its infancy. So as a professional, or rather as any kind of professional, we need to understand how important the data privacy is. In the second part of this session, we will touch upon the threat landscape. We will understand what is the emerging threats for every organization across sectors. Then we will touch upon the concept of cyber resilience, which is something beyond cybersecurity or data privacy. And finally, on the third part, I would share some of my experiences of getting into cybersec space, as well as share with you some of the tools that you can leverage to chart your own course into this world of cybersecurity. So let's start with our section 1, which is about understanding data security. So being in this security space, what I've understood is the best way of learning cybersec is through analogies. Try to connect it with your everyday things that you use, or try to connect it with everyday situations that you face. And that's how you could build the understanding. So currently on the screen, I'm sure you would have seen all these things somewhere placed in the buildings that you have visited or you are sitting right now in. And I don't have to tell you what these are. These are all firefighting equipments. And if you see these, each item comes in a very specific order. Now, what is that order? Let's see. Although all these equipments are there in all the buildings, that doesn't mean that there would be a fire incident. But it's mandatory that we have these things so that when such an incident outbreaks, we can take the necessary steps. So let's try to understand cybersecurity through analogy of a fire incident. So before a fire incident occurs, it is necessary that the building is constructed with some level of fire resistant materials or fire which could not catch fire that easily. That's the before phase. So we are building that kind of fire resistance in our structure. Now, despite of that, there are incidents when there could be a fire. It could be a negligence or it could be act of a nefarious actor, but then we need to have those equipments which detect fire, announce it, set the alarm going, or give the capability in hand of people to raise an alarm. That's what is the detect phase. And finally, you have the response phase where actually the fire has happened. You have to contain it. You have to control the damage. That's where those extinguishers comes in. Now, with this concept in your mind, let's overlap it with cybersecurity. First thing, when it comes to cybersecurity, we need to understand what are we securing. In case of fire, it's about human life, it's about the property. When it comes to cybersecurity, it's about the information, it's about the data. Primarily, it's about the data, it's about the information that you want to secure. And this information from company to company, from sector to sector varies. Now, again, let's take few analogies. Think of your home. You would have a lot of documents at your home. You could have some property papers. You could have your bank statements. Now, let's map these triad of availability, confidentiality, and integrity around those documents. Let's think your property papers. Your property papers are important. They are to be secured. And when you secure, which one do you give more weightage to? The integrity of the paper? Yes, because you don't want anyone to manipulate it. The availability, whenever you want, you should get it. And confidentiality is the last part because if someone demands, you have to show it. So this is the concept that you have to apply on all data elements for your organization. And against each of these facets, there is a an opposing force. So when you talk about confidentiality, you are protecting it from disclosure. You have to decide who should have access to that particular piece of information. When it comes to availability, it's protecting from destruction. You want to secure it. And when it comes to integrity, it's about not being manipulated. Now think about your financial statements. You want to secure its integrity. No one should go and modify it. It could be in the digital format. No one should really be able to destroy its integrity. So with that triad in mind, let's see where and when you should protect. Now with this, in last 2 years of pandemic, we all are connecting from different parts of the globe. We go sit even in our friend's place and probably do group working, connecting through the same Wi-Fi. So there is an approach that we have to follow for protection. And like now, this is where you have to think of the fire analogy. You have the before phase where you have to understand where are you going to sit, how are you going to connect, what devices are you going to use, and what kind of security controls are there in those devices. Now, when we say devices, it could be anything. It could be your endpoints in the sense the laptop, mobile, tablets, is the network through which you are connecting. Where are you connecting? It could be into your cloud environment. It could be into your email server. It could be somewhere behind VPNs. Now, there was a time when we used to have a complete parameter defined around your organization, around your data. And by perimeter, I mean a set of defenses, like a country would have proper international borders, and over there we have our armed forces protecting us. Now, with that analogy, think of the situation we are in the digital front. There are no perimeters now. We could just connect from anywhere. We use more multiple devices. There is concept of BYOD, bring your own devices. With that, the potential of attack has really increased. And that's where the during phase comes. Now, for instance, if you recall our analogy of fire, we want to detect as and when the fire happens. We want to alert the right individuals to get into action. And same holds good when it comes to cyber attacks. We have to have those capabilities through which we can detect. And once we have detected, we have to contain that attack. We have to control the damage and remediate and recover. So that's the pattern that will always be followed in any kind of cybersecurity mitigation plans. Moving on, how we secure, I briefly touched upon everything. First thing that you have to understand is, do we see what we want to secure? Think of your house. Once you get into the house, you need to know where is what. Only then you can really put those kind of measures around those things which really demands. For example, you have some precious jewelry. You want to secure it, you could probably keep it in a locker. You have, say, some currency. Probably you won't keep in locker. You would keep it in a cupboard, in a small under behind a lock and key. And this is where you have to apply the thought process of assessing the risk, because security comes at some cost, and that cost should be justifiable to the business. So what the point that I'm trying to drive in here is, the security exists for the success of business and not vice versa. So there are folks who are so passionate about security that they forget that security could sometimes come in the way of business. So that's what we have to be always cautious about as cybersecurity practitioner, that security is more like, think of the analogy of a car. You need a seat belt, but it's not going to stop the driver from driving without seat belt. But you need the seat belt, and hence the company which has built the car provides you those safety features. In Indian roads, we still have cars without airbags. Now, this is where the driver is the business, and we are the provider of the airbags. And it's all based on the risk, is based on the risk appetite of the organization and the budget we have. Now, based on that assessment, we will decide on what kind of controls we put in. That's where the concept of seat belts or ABS brakes or the airbags comes in. Now, once we have all these things, we need to start detecting. Now, think of the analogy of you driving on Indian roads. We have sensors. Imagine you want to take reverse. If there are no sensors, of course, there would be drivers who just go with those mirrors. Now, those mirrors are also controls. You need to have the mirrors at the right places so you can drive safely. Now, the next step is to respond. Imagine the vehicle actually fell into a pothole and you want to recover from that. You could recover only if you have those necessary skills to maneuver out of that crater. Of course, in Indian roads, many times these potholes are as big as craters. So you need to have that skill. Your vehicle should be capable to come out of it. It should have enough clearance. Your wheel should be strong enough to take that impact. And that's where the respawn part comes in. And recover is you get back on track and drive on. So this gives you an end-to-end idea of what cybersecurity is. Moving on. Now let's try to understand data privacy and data security. By the way, a side note, in today's news, you might have read, unfortunately, our government has withdrawn the privacy bill, which was under deliberation from last 5 years. And hopefully we will have, that's what the government promises, that they will come out with a proper privacy law framework. So let's see what comes out next. However, if you think of European countries or US countries, and that's where probably a couple of us would be working, our customers might be located in those geographical regions, or we might be employed by one of those countries where data privacy is considered as a fundamental right. So if you think of someone from Europe, for them, data privacy is as important as their freedom. In US, it's more about not being under any kind of surveillance. Now, if you think about someone from Asian region, it would be the right to be anonymous. So as a cybersecurity professional or a practitioner, you need to understand what data privacy means for the business and for the business to operate from different zones. So that's where we need to understand the difference between data security and data privacy. So on the left hand side, you will see what data privacy actually means. It's about protecting your data. It's protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. When it comes to privacy, it's about how the data is being used. How do you create that data? Are you taking the consent of your user? For instance, if you have seen last year, WhatsApp wanted to push a new privacy law, not sorry, privacy policy, and they were reaching out to all of us that go and consent to our app, else you can't use. So are we paying attention to those things? As a business, am I taking the consent to use that data from my users? And as a users, are we paying attention to how our data is getting used? Because this is the area where privacy violation comes into picture. Now, when we say privacy violation, many countries have brought in regulations which give a lot of power back into the hands of users. For instance, if you take the case in Europe, we have GDPR. It stands for General Data Privacy Regulation, which actually and over last few years, GDPR is being used to penalize companies like Google and Facebook. So that's where, as security practitioner, we have to keep an eye on is our business going to have any kind of violation for our users' privacy. Now, this is where both the concept of data security and data privacy overlaps. Data privacy cannot exist without data security. You have to secure the data. On top of that, we have to follow those principles which ensures that we are processing and using the data in a right manner, which will not have any kind of untoward consequences for our users. And that's where in this Venn diagram at the center, you would see the cyber security related privacy events. Now, if you take, if you want me to cite an example, Marriott hotels, they have been in news again and again because of data breach. Now, data breach is where the data has been taken out of their systems. There is an exfiltration of data. Now, there is a privacy aspect. What data got exfiltrated? It was the data about who were the customers, what duration they stayed, and probably what kind of services they consumed. And that's where the privacy breach comes into picture. So the bottom line is, as security practitioner, we need to have cognizance of privacy and security, and both are sides of the same coin. Now, moving to the second part, let's understand who are the threat actors, what kind of threat landscape we are seeing. So till now we spoke about how to protect, what to protect. Now let's understand from whom to protect. So let me first give you some examples of these incidents. So one is Equifax. It happened in 2017 where the CEO had to resign. The organization was impacted around $1.35 billion. Around 143 million customers were impacted. And this was a credit reporting agency like we have CIBIL in India. And you could imagine the kind of impact the customer would have faced. Their confidential information. Imagine the CIBIL score of our citizens being leaked, how devastating it could be. It gives the threat actors lot of power if they know what financial state we are in, because they use this to build those social engineering attacks. Now the next example is solar wind. The okay, first one was about financial sector. Second is in the IT sector. SolarWind is an organization which provides network related tools which many Fortune 500 companies use. And their image or their software was compromised. There was a malicious code that was pushed into their code, into their software, which got deployed across many Fortune 500 companies. And which has led to breach of those Fortune 500 companies. So you could imagine the reputation loss, the business loss SolarWind had to experience. Next is Colonial Pipeline. This is an probably you folks might be familiar. This was there in news for quite some time, and in fact, it led the United States to declare state of emergency. So they are the gas pipeline providers who supply gas across the United States. And because of a ransomware attack, there was a total dearth of gas reaching to various states in US. So the point that we have to understand here is the the attackers are not focused on one particular sector. Every sector, every industry is equally exposed to the threat actors. And let's see how bad the situation is. So if you could, probably the font size is too small, so let me help you get the highlights here. So if you see, this is a threat landscape report from ANISA, that's European Cybersecurity Agency. So what they have found is the maximum number of attacks have happened on public administration, followed by digital organizations and general public services. And then comes the health sector. So the the the, the sector which takes care of human lives is also not spared. Sometime last year, somewhere I think in Western Europe side, I guess Netherlands, an entire hospital's database was ransomware, and they had to really choke out the ransom to get their systems back and running. So you could imagine how many lives would be put on stake because of such attacks. So the key point here is every sector in today's situation needs cybersecurity. Anjali, I see a hand being raised. Any questions for me?
That is my hand. I thought we'll just pause and
Mm-hmm.
ask if somebody has some questions. And also, I just understood from few people that people were having difficulty in joining. So I thought while some more people join in, Praveen, we can
Mm.
take few questions till so
Okay.
far. And since you've covered a reasonable number of areas, so if anybody, I also saw somebody had raised their hand. I think they've put their hands down now. So I think now Praveen would open it up if anybody has any queries so far. Maybe we can take couple of them and then we can move. And in that meanwhile, some people are joining in.
Sure. So probably I will stop sharing so I could see who's raising hands. While I share, it becomes a little difficult because that hand raise comes somewhere in the corner.
So there is a question. Can you repeat the difference between data privacy and data security?
Sure, sure. Good question. Let me share the content once more so that while I speak, you could follow the image. Right. So here on the left side, you see something about data security. So like we discussed, securing the data is protecting its confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So let me try to explain it with an example here. Again, the Marriott data breach. So like I explained, as an organization, they should have secured their data. They should have taken care that the data stays safe within their perimeter, that it was not exfiltrated. And how do they do that? I mean, in case they are using cloud, there are various ways of securing your cloud. If it was more like in their organization premise, they could have put different security controls, starting with protection controls. When we say protection or preventive controls, it's about having firewalls at the right place, having your applications that are being used scan on time. So these are preventive controls that you put in place. Now, despite of that, the preventive controls could have failed. They should have had enough detective controls. So by detective controls, these are, if you think of that fire analogy, you need to have those sensors and alarms. which could detect that there is a fire going on. And similarly in security, you have technologies like SIEM. It stands for Security Incident and Event Management System, which could detect that there is such and such thing is happening, which is an anomaly, which is not a normal behavior. That is another layer of defense. Now, even if that was passed, they could have probably performed some recovery actions that the exfiltration could be stopped, the impact could be breached. So these are the areas that comes under data security. Now, data privacy is where how you are using that data. Now, let's take an example. Facebook. We are putting all our personal information in Facebook. Many people does. And when you do that, we need to understand how Facebook is using it. Are they selling it to some service providers? Are they selling it to some third party who indirectly try to profile us to identify what are our likes, dislikes? They they try to create a profile and do a very targeted selling to us. Probably we don't need that thing, but the way we'll start seeing ads, the way we start seeing all those messages coming into our Facebook wall will probably make us click on those links. So that's where the data privacy comes. So there is a fine line between breach of data privacy and utilizing your data in a secure manner. So that's where we have different principles of privacy, like have you taken the consent of the user? Have you only collected the data which is bare enough or minimum for you to do your business? Have you put in place those controls which will notify their users about different users? So these aspects comes under data privacy. So that how we are using, how it is showed, how it is shared. And like I said, data security is necessary and data privacy is built through having a secure infrastructure. And through data privacy, there are more implications, which is more around regulations, which is around compliance. For instance, if you talk about Europe, it is GDPR. Japan has their own very strict laws. Singapore has one of the best privacy laws. US have in US there is no single federal law. They have state specific laws. For instance, in California they have CCPA. So if any organization, however secure they are, if they are found to be utilizing the data in a improper fashion without users consent, they would be penalized despite of they proving that the data is secure. So that's the basic difference between data security and privacy.
Praveen, we also have Ashish Mohanty who was raising his hand. Ashish, I've requested you unmute. You can put unmute and ask your question.
I had a question that while we engage partners for the SOC and developing internally, but there are a lot of chances that the data is getting leaked in many of the places like dark web and all. So how can any organization secure both their internal data as well as external data? Because I could engage a partner who could do an SOC or a knock for me.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it was very surprising if I can find my data available on the website that can get sold for even a simple CEO or a CFO or an ELT, anyone's password or anything can be sold in the open market for as simple as $5 or $10, which is very difficult in this time. So how do we manage that?
Right. So uh, there are multiple questions in that. So let me try to answer it in parts. First thing is vendor assessment. So you want to partner with a vendor, you want to use their service. So there are ways that you can perform the third party assessments. Of course, there is only so much you could do using various reports like SOC 2 report or ISO 27001 report. But from your end, the first step is performing the necessary due diligence. That the partner whom I am picking, at least do they have the basic framework in place? Do they have compliances in place? So again, this is more like seeing from outside. You can't really go into the organization and try to investigate. Of course, you can do if your organization could get into that kind of contract where you can do an in-person audit, but there are very few scenarios where any vendor would agree for that. So we are dependent on these kind of third-party assessments. So once you have identified that who's the vendor, and what kind of security controls are in place based on these as third party assessment. Next step is you have to look into their reputation. Now the interesting thing is of late many such organizations have come up who are actually doing this kind of building the intelligence about various organization, their security posture looking from outside in. They have these kind of tools which can actually take a look at what kind of chatter is going on in darknet, what kind of chatter is going on in those hackers societies and their chat rooms, and based on that they could frame a security posture for the organization. So you can definitely hire them for getting this kind of input. Now, if you are budget constrained, you can always leverage the open intelligence society. So there is opcent, you could Google, and there are such groups who are collating all this information from open network, from dark net, and providing it for free. Plus, if you ask me as as an Cisco employee, Cisco has an organization called as Talos, who is doing their own intelligence collection and providing an report for free for whoever wants to get a general view of things. So similar to that, many organizations are putting such intelligence into public view. And the point here is we as a security professional, we have to be organized. We have to come together. And if you see the other part of the world, the part of adversaries, they are working in groups. They are sharing the intelligence. And that's what we have to build within our cybersecurity space where there is more collaboration, more sharing of information. Hope you
Uh,
got the answer.
I have muted him. I'm just hoping he got the answer. So, Ashish, I understand a lot of people had, I saw a couple of more hands, and a lot of people have queries. We will take some towards the end. I just have one more person. I think said if you could explain slide number 10, since it is 9 and you can move to 10. And then we can go ahead because a lot of people have joined now.
This one,
I think yes, 10, 10, not 11, 10.
10 is just placeholder.
Oh, okay. So I wonder, is it slide 10? It's just like Praveen said, it's just a placeholder. If you meant 11,
Yeah,
then
if they could frame the question, it will help me to
yeah.
give a proper answer.
Vishwa, if you could just frame it, maybe we will take it in the next break, your question. So Praveen, I wouldn't want to stop you
Okay,
further. You can
okay,
continue.
right. So last we were touching on this where we saw that it doesn't matter which industry we are in, all all the industries are being targeted. Moving on. Now let's understand who are the adversaries. Now on the left side you see this table. It's been ordered in the sophistication level from down to up. Now, when we talk about adversaries, we have to think what is their motivation. Now, I'm speaking from the point of view of a defender. We have to get into the mind space of adversaries. And how do we do that? And we do that by trying to figure out what could be their motivation to attack my organization. What capabilities do they have? That is the skill set that they hold. And third, what kind of capacity, what kind of funding do they have? Now, based on these three factors, you see we have this table. And at the bottom, we have the insider threat. Now, if you are a security professional, you know people are the most precious asset for any organization. But unfortunately, from the cybersecurity front, people are the weakest link. You could put n number of technologies, you could put lot of security awareness programs, but there could be one such person who will click on that link, or there could be one person who is so unhappy because his or her colleague got an appraisal. His or her colleague got a promotion despite of they working so hard, and they just want to take a revenge. And that's our insider threats. And they are more like from inside they know where you have certain things, and they could really be very damaging. And that's what the insider threats are. Their sophistication level is low, but their motivation is high because of their discontent. Next are seekers. These are those script kiddies. They see those English movies where someone with hoodie typing furiously on the keyboards, and they believe they too could do something of that sort. Unfortunately, the reality is very different. To really mount an attack, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of research. However, these thrill seekers, they Google, they find something like Kali Linux loaded with lot of tools, and they start firing it indiscriminately. And they derive that adrenaline rush, a satisfaction of breaking into probably neighbor's Wi-Fi. So they are the thrill seekers. Next is, of course, the terrorist group. They have a high level of motivation, and of course, their intent is to have violence. They mostly target the intellectual property and the critical infrastructure of the government or the organization. Next group is the hacktivist. So I'm sure you folks would have heard about the group called as Anonymous. So they are the folks who have some thought process, some ideology, and they believe strongly about that, and whoever opposes them, they unleash their expertise on those organization or those countries. In fact, of late you might have heard a couple of months back, Ukraine wanted to build an IT army. So that is something you could put as an hacktivist group. Next, cyber criminals. So I guess someone brought up the topic of dark web. So if you ever happen to visit, I would say do not visit. If you visit, you have to be very careful. You need to have a completely isolated system. Now, if you visit there, you would find lot of such hacking services on rent, lot of ransomware as a service. There are a lot of malwares that you could buy, and that is the cyber criminal group, and they profit from their own doings. They hack into, for instance, these ransomware attacks. They block your organization from doing the business. They ask for ransoms, and their motive is to get profit. And comes the national state. So I don't have to really mention in newspaper, there is enough reports that one country is hacking into someone else's infrastructure, one country is rigging other countries' democratic process, someone is getting elected because someone created that kind of campaign on the social media, and their motivation is to, of course, dominate, become the next superpower. Now let's touch upon what kind of prime threats we have seen. So this is a list taken again from NSA's report. So we'll just touch upon first three. Ransomware. I'm sure you guys know. Someone breaches into your infrastructure, encrypts all the data, and asks for ransom in return of the key or the data. Malwares are more like those malicious worms, those viruses which have been propagated into the system. Cryptojacking, this is the third prominent one in last year where the compute capacity is being stolen. You have, say, AWS accounts which are not properly safeguarded. These attackers come and inject such scripts onto your infrastructure. It could be on your laptop also, which consumes the computing capacity for coin mining. And fourth one is the email, which has been perpetually there and it's not going anywhere. It's more around the phishing attacks where I guess folks should be familiar with phishing attacks where such malicious campaigns are created by the threat actors to make people click on bad links. And then next is the threat against data, which is about exfiltrating the precious data. In fact, again from the news, I presume few of the folks in audience might be users of ClearTrip. So a lot of ClearTrip data was found on darknet. It includes the user data. It includes some excels from their financial parts. But again, I mean, I think they are still investigating the root cause. However, data exfiltration is The fifth one, what was seen in last year. Rest things are in the descending order. In the interest of time, I will move on. Okay, now let's touch upon cyber resilience. And before we go into that specific topic, let's understand what is resilience. And this is something again through an analogy, and I'm sure you folks might have understood what this analogy is about. We all experience it in our everyday life. We drive our vehicles, two-wheelers, cars, we hit potholes. So based on our experience, first thing is, are we able to anticipate? From a distance, you start watching another vehicle, you see it being wobbly. Are you able to anticipate that there is a pothole there? And despite of anticipation, despite of being careful, we sometimes fall into those potholes. So that's where the concept of being able to withstand those impact. Is your vehicle's tire broad enough to come out of it? Are you strong enough to take that jerk? Are you really able to withstand that shake that you and your vehicle has gone through? And are you able to recover? So by recover, despite of potholes, you are able to drive. You are able to reach your destination. And based on all these experiences, are you able to adapt? Are you able to become that Schumacher for our pothole-ridden roads to navigate through potholes while other vehicles are falling into those craters? That's where the adaptability comes. And this is the concept of resilience. Now let's map this analogy to the concept of cyber resilience. So we touched about cybersecurity, we touched on data privacy. Now let's understand what it means for a business to have these things coming together. So you have the data security, you have the privacy, and through that you achieve the cyber resilience. So let's think from a business leader point of view. Are you able to anticipate what could go wrong in your business? And if it goes wrong, how bad it could get? Can it lead my business to be, okay, will my company have to shut doors? Will I go out of business? Will my stakeholders get impacted? Will my customers get impacted? Will there be penalty on my organization? So those are the aspects that we should be able to anticipate. Now, despite of having all those controls in place, there is a good chance the organization will get targeted. Are we able to withstand those hits and continue our business going on? Based on that, we are being hit. Are we able to recover? By recover, for instance, there is a data breach happening. Are we still able to continue our business? Are we still able to grow our customer base? Are we still able to increase our market penetration? Now, based on all this, what are the lessons that we have learned? Have we adapted our process? Have we put those new controls in place which would avoid such situations happening in future? And if it happens, we come out in a less crippled situation. So that's what the adaptability aspect comes in. And through proper governance, risk compliance, risk assessments, and having the right controls in place, the organization's target is to achieve the cyber resilience. Now moving on, going to the third part. Anjana, would you like me to pause here for questions or may I take it forward?
Yeah, I think you can take it forward, Praveen, because we stopped for a while and I think
Okay. You are
time is
running out of
also.
time?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can take it in the end, I guess.
Okay, all right. So I hope you got a picture of what data security is, what cyber resilience means from the organization aspect. So we touched on the fundamentals. We touched on how to perceive the threat landscape. We touched upon how the security should be an enabler of business and not other way around. And now let's understand how to become a cybersecurity practitioner. So let me try to first tell you my story, my journey of how I got into cyberspace. And then probably I will share with you some of those tools and concepts that you could really utilize in case you feel cybersecurity is a place to go forward. So on the left hand, at the bottom part, I started my career as a programmer. So almost for a decade, I was a programmer. I used to write code for different products. Cisco gave me the opportunity to write code for security products. And that's where I really got into the concept of network security, data security, but I became quite curious. I'm writing these products, I'm building these products. Where is it getting used? How is it getting used? Who is using it? So that's where the second part of my journey towards cybersecurity began. I moved into a role called as escalation engineers. So they are a layer between our first line of issue resolution from the customers and before the issues really hit the developers. So the escalation engineers sit in the middle, try to understand the entire network topology of the customer, how they have deployed, how are they using it, what is the problem they have encountered, is the problem with the configuration, is the problem with interoperability of that device, is it the problem genuinely with my product code. And that's where I got a bird's eye view. So this is how I relate. A developer is like a racehorse with blinders. So developer has to achieve the target. They have to run a predefined track. Escalation engineer is more like you are open to the world, figure out there is a problem. And problems, when you solve problems, that enhances your understanding of the thing that you're working on. So that's where I got the breadth or the whole landscape of security portfolios that organization have. With that knowledge, I wanted to become a cybersecurity practitioner. And that's where I did some certifications, I did some learnings, which proved my interest in this sector, in this particular vertical. And I was again fortunate enough within Cisco, I got the opportunity to move into InfoSec engineering role, where I and my team were responsible for protecting the intellectual property, ensuring the network security is in place, ensuring the vendor security assessments are being performed. So this was again more of a technical role. And after spending few years in that role, I moved into security risk management role, which is my current role. And this is where all the understanding I have accumulated over various roles across various scenarios I have worked through, I could translate it into a business case. I could I could be the bridge between the level who is actually hands-on, who are implementing things, and the level who is thinking how to progress, how to take the business to the next level, and identifying where the risk lies. So this is the journey I have followed, where within the same organization I learned, evolved, got multiple opportunities, and the journey continues. And I have fallen in love with this sector. So that's one thing. If you are curious, if you are inquisitive, you ask a lot of questions, you want to find answers, cybersecurity is the space for you. Now let's see what different roles you have. Now again, taking that example I stated, in movies they just show some person with hoodie typing on the keyboard, there is a dark screen. Unfortunately, that's bad stereotype of cybersecurity. There are a lot of roles that you could get in based on your interest. If you're someone who has a keen eye on finding issues, there is something like security testing. You are someone who could tell how to build a good product. You could get into something like application security or audit and risk. You have a good understanding of privacy, how to use my product, how to use it in a safe manner. You have the vertical of privacy. Now, you are more interested in securing the network. You are very good in troubleshooting. You have the network security management. If you are someone who knows how to recover from a bad situation, there is BCP, Business Continuity Plan and Disaster Recovery vertical. And if you are extreme geek, you want to dissect things, you want to understand the malwares, you want to see how these malwares penetrate and proliferate, there is IT forensics. So this is a chart which you can take as a guideline on where you would like to progress. Now, the next question you might have is, how do I gain skills for these different verticals? And that's where I want to introduce one nice tool that we that is freely available for everyone's consumption. It's called as CyberSeek. Now you can write down this URL. So here you can visit, you can see what vertical you are coming from. You could be coming from finance and you want to move into, say, cyber specialist role. You could come and see from cyber specialist what path takes you. Eventually you want to be an cyber architect. You want to be a cyber security manager, what path you should chart. By the way, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to stick to this path. This is just more like a navigation. You can chart your own course. Now, what specific skills you need? Scroll down and this website shows you what skills are required for being a good performer in that respective role. And they also tells you what are those industry certifications which are going on, which are prominent in the industry right now. So this is a tool which could help you. Coming back, right? So we touched upon the roles, we touched upon what skills you could gain. And with that, we come to an end of this session. And I hope I could share my experience and learnings with all of you folks and inspire you to explore this world of cybersecurity.
Thank you, Praveen. Before we move into more Q and A and having taking some questions which are in chat, like you said, you build your skills. You had some skills and you build on those skills, and that's how you moved within the organization, right? That's our motto also as Future Skills Prime. And to start with, I wanted the users to understand that we are having two courses from Cisco, and these courses are available for free. So I'll just show people what I'm talking about. I am just sharing my screen, and then obviously Praveen will take over the Q&A. I'll just brief everybody about the. I hope all of you are aware of Future Skills Prime, since this is the medium we all got to your organization, and you have logged into the platform. See, it is very important that you have a tool, but if you don't use the tool, then there is no point, right? So the Future Skills Prime platform is available, and we have, and these are the two courses that I wanted you to pay attention to. These are from Cisco. They are available for free, and one is Cybersecurity Essential and another is Introduction to Cybersecurity. Now, introduction to anything is the basic, right? And then maybe something very essential to pursue it is the next step. So these two are actually logical step, one after one, and you can start with one and then decide perhaps do you want to do further in cybersecurity. A lot of you may not be in that technology. A lot of you, like Praveen said, I was a coder, or I used to be in something else, and then you gradually he found a love for cybersecurity, and that's how he moved. So maybe you're not doing something right now which is exactly in cyber. In fact, a lot of words like cyber security, cyber analyst came very later. And I remember a long back, the popular thing Cisco used to offer was CCNA, Cisco network, I think Cisco certified network administrator, because people were only thinking about how to secure their networks, and there must be very, very one or two people in the organization doing cyber security, because we didn't have so much of reach on internet, and we didn't have access to so many things. Even the network with the organization, within the organization, were normally blocked, so you couldn't access a lot of web pages. And even now a lot of organization block their pen drive slots and external slots and external websites, so that there are lesser and lesser medium through which you have issues with respect to security. But like, what about us as an individual, right? Like Praveen said, our information is there, publicly available on Facebook, or maybe on multiple sites. We have multiple IDs and multiple passwords and multiple information, which is from with Amazon. Sometime I order, and there was a day I was thinking on ordering lock, So I was like, I'm giving them my home address and also ordering a lock for my home, right? So things are very interconnected in today's world, and it is, and hence, this is the platform where you can access these two courses available for free, like I said. And if there are a lot of people from same organization, we can request Praveen to come in one talk. I'm just, committing on his behalf. And so my point is that we will try our best to help you, uh, and now that this was just quick, taking you to the platform, and Praveen is here. I saw a couple of questions, and a lot of people, Praveen, couldn't join. I'll tell you, we had more than 1000 registration. I wonder what happened. A lot of people were not able to join the session. Something happened in between our,
That's
communication and
unfortunate.
their joining. Yeah. So we will put this session on YouTube of Future Skills for sure. But there are people who are also asking if we can share the slides. So obviously we will have to ask Praveen for that, and I don't want to publicly ask him that. So we'll ask him off the record after this session if he's ready. Because anyway, you'll have all the sessions, or all the PPT explained in the video also. So the recording will be shared with everybody. That's number one. I'll ask Praveen if he's okay to share the slides. We will also share the slides. That is number two. So now I feel there were a couple of questions. If there are no questions written here, I would we can open up for Q&A if you want to raise your hand, and then because we do have couple of minutes more to go. It's not we are here till 12:30. I guess we will wrap it up by 12:15, because a question takes a long time to answer sometime, right? So that's number one. So some people are saying please share free link for training. Okay, so this link is, by the way, already shared with all of you who are registered on the Future Skills Prime. Please register and access the link. I saw some questions
Yes.
top,
Yeah.
and since slide 13, I mean,
Okay.
now I have just come. People remember slides, I guess, Praveen.
Awesome. Awesome. Happy to see folks to remember things. That's one part about presentation. Most of the, I mean, the retention that we have when someone is speaking and someone is presenting is very short. Glad that folks are able to remember with the slide numbers. So how about, I see there are few queries on the chat. How about we go in that order? Yeah.
Sure, we
So
can. We can.
sure.
Yeah.
So I see we touched upon repeat the data privacy by Nitish. So that is covered, I hope. Next one I see Badal is asking, is information security a subset of cybersecurity? Good question, Badal. This was a question that every cybersecurity engineer or infosec engineer should ask, and I had been asking this question from years. And it's like a school of thought. There are different, it is in fact debatable, but there is a general consensus that cyber security is part of information security. Now, why? We are talking about information security. It's not just about the digital data, it's also about the information that is printed. Now, think of your office. There would be folks who would be printing out the design specification of your product. That also comes under information security. There would be information about your office layout. Where are the labs? And it would be put on display. That comes under information security. There are those security doors on the way which ensures that folks with right ID should only enter. And your organization might have taken one more level up, that folks could connect to the organization's network only if they have physically entered into the building using the iCard, the identity card. Now, all this comes under information security. Cyber security is a part of information security which specifically deals with the digital form of data. Now, like I said, this is my understanding, and this is a debate that you will find in many of the cybersecurity forums. So what I shared is my understanding. I hope that gives you some answer to your query, Badal. Moving on. Okay, mostly for registration. Registration.
Yeah, you saw so many queries for registration.
Right.
I don't know. So I think
That's
to
yeah. That's quite
yeah to the
unfortunate. That
yeah,
folks
this
went
is
wrong.
unfortunate that we were not able to have a lot of people on this session, and it would have been very interactive had we had more people. I am also, while you take more questions, I have my colleague Saurav. I saw a couple of questions, people asking where is this course, how do I register, where do I go. So I'll ask my colleague Saurav to share his screen and show us how to enroll into cybersecurity Cisco course. And Praveen can give his opinion. I think Praveen was a part of the internship batch where they did the same courses, introduction to cybersecurity and the next one, right? Cybersecurity essential. What a little bit about these two courses. What will one learn? So, Saurav, can you share your screen and also show how to enroll? Do you have it handy?
Yes, I have pasted the link in the chat box also, the introduction.
Okay, so Saurav has pasted the link in the chat box, and now he's going to show you how to enroll into this course. These courses are from Cisco and they're available for free for everybody to consume. And thankfully we have Praveen, who was a part of one of our earlier batch, and Praveen will help us understand what will you learn here so that you can build on it. Saurav, are you sharing your screen because it is not coming up? It is blank right now.
Yes, is it visible now?
No, it is black. I mean, I don't know if you have started sharing. They
Coming up.
coming up now. Okay, done. So go to the yeah. Okay, so
Or go to the cloud computing page, the channel, and then click from there and then come.
it's in cybersecurity. Go to cybersecurity.
Yeah, sorry, my bad, cybersecurity. Okay, so as you all can see, Saurabh's screen. So the first step which we have to do is go to the home page and click on cybersecurity channel. So once you click on cybersecurity channel, you have to click on job category option. So sort of go up and show where is job category course option. Okay, so now if you see the fourth option, first you have all, then pathways and journey, then foundation courses, bridge courses, and job category engineering. So if you click that, you will see multiple courses. So you just scroll down a little further and then you will see Introduction to Cybersecurity by Cisco. So we have to click on that. Sort of click. Okay, so usually when the person first time enrolls for the course, you will see a start button instead of continue. So if you see 40% completed, so usually when you start the course, it's here you will see the start button. So what we have to do is you have to click on start. So sort of just click on continue. Okay, so once you click on start, you will see this page here. We have to click on view more, which will take you to the Cisco web page where the actual content lies. So it's called Cisco Netacad Networking Academy. So here, once you land on this page, you have to first sign up. So you have to enroll yourself. All right, so give your details. So Saurabh, can you enroll yourself if you have not done? Select the region first. It's India. Hope everybody is able to follow the process. So if you have a query, you can put it on the chat box or we'll take the queries once Saurabh's registration is done. Saurabh? Yeah. Once you give your location, I mean region, date of birth, year, give your name, email ID. Submit. Okay, so you'd have received a activation link. So Saurabh, you have already registered on this, or this is the first time you're doing?
This is the first time I'm registering for this course.
Okay, so now if you go and check your mail, you would have got a confirmation mail. So you have to confirm your email ID. So I can see in your Outlook. So everybody, so once you enroll on Netacad platform, that is Cisco Netacad, your activation link will be sent to your email ID. So you have to activate your account. Okay, so once you activate, you have to create your password. It's a very simple process, but sometimes due to few technical issues at the back end of Firewall, we may have a little trouble. So in case any such issues, please do write back to us. We'll try to sort that out and create my account. Yeah.
Saurabh, both passwords have to match. Huh? So,
Keep it simple, easy to remember. Hope everybody is following up the step-by-step process. So let's do it right away. Make sure that your password has 8 character, one lowercase, uppercase number. Okay, so there is some error. Okay. So anyway, so this is the simple process. So once you actually enroll for the course, so you have to sign up, activate your account, and you will land in Netacad platform, wherein you will see enrollment in the course. Saurabh, are you able to do it? Refresh it and do it again. Go to
yeah, for
activate account.
everybody's benefit, please design a password. Say before you get into any of these things, because I think having a good password is the best thing to start with.
I'm not able to set the password.
Yeah, so write it somewhere in a word first. Think of it. So I think this is fairly there. We have moved you towards the steps. And once you do the password, then it's creating your account and you can access the content.
So let me show my screen.
Yeah.
So once you create your password, so you just have to log in. So whatever course you enroll for, it will be showed. It will be shown in your My Learning history. So okay, so now you can see, so here is introduction to cybersecurity. So when you're doing it for the first time, it will directly take you to the course because I have already logged in. So I'm just, going through this process. So click here, click on sign up. So you have to again sign up for the course. So am I missing something here?
I think Praveen will be able to help us.
In case.
So, Praveen, what has changed ever since we saw this site last?
Uh, Anjana, please don't put me on spot. The UI keeps changing. The
Sorry.
Netcat, only the
Uh,
Netcat team will be able to answer
yeah,
those
yeah. No, I
queries.
was just kidding. I
Okay,
know.
so
I
now
think. Yeah.
okay, so let me check it and come back to you guys. So that first, yeah, the first step is to register on the Netacad portal, and usually when we go click on the link, course link, it will directly take you to the course link. All right, so where you can see the courses. Okay, so meanwhile, till Netacad registration process, is there any issues? You can just let me know, and we can check that out.
Sure. I guess all of you, if you have any issues, you can reach out to your SPOC or reach out to us. While we have just walked you through this, we have couple of questions for Praveen, Sangeeta. So, I saw a couple of questions where people have asked, please tell us about cybersecurity tools, and I saw one more question. So this one, would you like to answer?
Sure, sure, Anjana. So, as you read out that question, probably I'll start with that. Now, when we say cybersecurity tool, if you recall, let me share my presentation, that particular slide. There are different verticals in cybersecurity, and almost every vertical has its own set of tools. So, uh, here, share. Yeah, I hope screen is visible.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So let's see. Application security, they have their own tools to check for vulnerabilities in the code. There are vendor-based tools. There are free tools. If you folks are from the application development world, you might have heard of an organization called as OWASP, and they have provided a lot of free tools. So that comes under the application security tools. Then risk compliance, again, there are a lot of such tools that the GRC stands for governance, risk and compliance. That's one particular vertical. They have their own set of tools. So it all depends upon which vertical you are interested in. Now, if you are talking about network security, that's where we have those firewalls, the IPS stands for incident prevention system, IDS, incident detection system. Then you have XDR. And another interesting thing is cybersecurity is full of jargons, lot of acronyms, and every vertical has its own set of specific acronyms, overlapping acronyms. So answering what tool is being used is very specific to what vertical you're talking about. Forensic guys, they have awesome tools. They dig into the memory, they dig into the runtime systems. So, and if you are talking from the offensive part, when I say offensive, we have to understand within security there are different type of teams. For instance, I have always been, and these teams are known by their by colors. So we have something called as a red team. who are more from the offensive front. They are part of our organization. They will act like an attackers. They will try to breach into the network. They will try to exploit the vulnerability and tell the blue team, the defender team, as to where the controls are weak, what applications are vulnerable, what is our exposure, what threat surface can be attacked. So I mean, it's a big answer to the question about tools. It all depends upon what vertical we are talking about, what objectives that particular vertical has. I hope that answers the query.
Yeah, there's one more. Please explain slide 13.
Slide 13.
There's one more, sorry, I missed. Uh, OSAP, that I think you spoke about the same site, right?
OWASP,
Same thing.
OWASP. Yeah.
OWASP, okay. Hello sir, I just want to ask, lots of people said that OWASP 10 method is enough for starting. So is that true?
Okay. Now, I'm from your query, I'm presuming you are coming from the application engineering, software engineering side. Probably you are a developer, you are a tester, you are an integration tester, or you could be a DevSecOps engineer or a full stack engineer. So OWASP top 10 is a good place to understand the vulnerabilities. But see, before we understand, and OWASP top 10 is specifically calling out that what vulnerabilities you could have in your code. But the approach that you have to take is try to understand what secure coding means. Of course, you can take OS top 10. There is similarly something else called a CWE top 25, common weakness enumeration. So you can definitely read upon all that, but the way you have to absorb this concept is by understanding how should I code against these vulnerabilities so that these vulnerabilities do not exist. So you have to think ground up. These vulnerabilities come after you have written the code, after the application is built. And you have to take this principle, apply it while you are designing the application. How to perform threat modeling. That is a concept that every software engineer, not software engineer, every designer should think. I'm designing something, how my product could be broken by probably a misuse or by an external element. So yeah, OWASP is a good place, and not just don't restrict yourself to OWASP top 10. Explore that website. It's like a treasure chest. You would be tired of so much of material that they could provide. It's very difficult to scan everything that OWASP provides you. But yeah, that's the right start. I see. I want to take one query. I found it quite interesting. I think it was asked by Natasha, and she asked, how do we know if there is a data breach and how we can prevent? Now, this is a very interesting question because to first thing, let's see how do you know that there is a data breach? There are two ways, and both the ways should be there for an organization. First is within your security controls. When I say security control, it actually means those tools or technologies that you have put in place from the security perspective, from the security standpoint. So your tools should be good enough to detect that there is some anomalous behavior going on. Now, probably folks would be familiar with the emerging sector of AI, ML, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So that is being extensively used in cybersecurity tools. There are tools which through machine learning which churn the whole, which will keep eye on your whole infrastructure on your network, baseline it to figure out what is your typical user behavior on the network, and try to identify if there is any anomalous behavior. For instance, you are a small startup, you have set of engineers who are working on cloud, and you see this is the particular pattern that you, and let's make it more specific. You are making use of say AWS, that is Amazon Web Services, and you are using only the region which is in APAC, and this is where the tool will benchmark or baseline that this is the pattern, that this much of data goes, this is the volume of data, this is the IP addresses, these are the uh, resources that are being used. Now, one fine day, suddenly you start seeing that there is traffic going towards US. And that's where these tools have to detect. And that's the first line of defense that you could have. Okay, first line of defense is protection. This is about detection, that you have detected. Now, that's one thing. Now, there is another way of finding if there is a data breach. Now, let's take the case of ClearTrip. How was this data breach detected? It was detected because one of those our cybersecurity vigilantes who or other term is the white hat hackers, they were sitting in those chat rooms where hackers sell data. And that's where they found that this ClearTrip data was on sale. And that white hat hacker informed the organization, he put it on public domain, he or she, they put it on the public domain that such and such incident has happened. Now, this is a bad thing for the organization that you couldn't detect and someone else is finding out. And that's where you have the threat intelligence team in your organization. Who are these white hat hackers who would penetrate into these chat rooms, who will get into these dark webs to see if there is any chatter happening for your organization or the data that your organization is responsible for. So these are a few approaches that the organization can take. Anjana, over to you if there is any other queries.
Yeah, there are a couple of big questions. So
Okay.
I saw one question from Ananya. I guess I pasted it because it was a huge question and I thought it would be easier pasting it.
Hmm.
Okay, there's one. Is it necessary to delete the firewall policies which are not being used to delete it completely, or any deactivation will be fine from security point of view?
Good question. And yes, firewalls needs to undergo the cleaning every year, at least on an yearly basis. The rules should be scanned because over a period of time, we would have created a lot of holes in our firewall rules. So you see, in an organization, as it grows, you want to give freedom to your creators that they could reach access different resources. Now there would be a case that that project is shelved, but if we don't review these policies on timely basis, those things sit there. There would be a big list. Eventually, it would run into millions of ACL. ACL stands for access control list, which are basically telling these IP addresses, these protocols are allowed. Your firewall, first of all, performance will be hit, and second, you are creating a security debt. By security debt, I mean there's a lot of garbage getting accumulated, which has to be cleaned, and more garbage eventually leads to rotting of your system. And in terms of security, rotting implies more attack surface opening up for your adversaries. So yes, your firewall rules, your IPS rules should undergo audits and annual reviews at least.
So there's one more. Is Meta spoiled
Hmm.
a good machine for practice?
Okay, Metasploit is a tool. It's a, in fact, if you want to pursue more around the what you call offensive security part, I would say pick up those. I mean, of course, you can do it all by yourself, but first thing is understand security, and then I mean, I'm digressing from specifically and saying if Metasploit is good or not. I know Metasploit gives you a lot of tools. In fact, it comes as part of the Kali Linux, which gives you even more capabilities. But before you really start using the tools, you need to understand what is the implication. So, for instance, you might be in an apartment, you want out of like we were talking about those threat actors, you are thrilled to see that if I can breach my neighbor's Wi-Fi. Don't do such things. You might be thrilled to go get into, say, one of our commerce sites and see if I can add some or push my card without paying. Don't do such things. There are formal stuffs that you can use. For example, there are bug bounty programs. So tools are just means for achieving things within the or rather using the right approach. So Metasploit is a powerful tool, and like that Spider-Man movie, with power comes a responsibility. So first understand your responsibilities and accountabilities, and then use such tools.
So Praveen, I mean, we have ample of question, and I feel somehow we will have to do one more session with you because
Wow.
a
Okay.
lot of people were not able to attend today's session. And even though we put it out, perhaps we can come with some other session which can be a next level to this,
Okay.
an incremental one. And since we are just we're here for 4 minutes, I don't want us to just address question and not thank you for coming. So the Praveen, thank you for coming here and running everybody through what are the important steps of cybersecurity and how it is important for everybody, right? Because in today's world, I think there are different aspects of the same technology, and one could be a user consumer of it, and one could be designing it. So we need to understand it from every aspect. And I think Sangeeta was finally able to get in. So Sangeeta, do you want to just do it in quick 2 minutes and then we will say goodbye to everybody?
Correct, correct. So I think people should not get panicky. इतना मुश्किल क्यों है? Why is it so difficult? So actually, it's not difficult at all. So as I mentioned, go to cybersecurity course, click on this, and you log in into your Netacad platform, and then go into my learning page. So once first you have to enroll for the course. So course में जब link आएगा तो वहाँ पे अपना नाम फिर से डालना पड़ेगा. See, there are two steps to it. First, you have to register or sign in onto the Netacad platform. Then you will see the course link on that. In the course, you have to enroll again. So two steps of enrollment. First onto the platform, then second onto the course. And once you enroll for the courses, under my I am learning page, you will see all your courses, whatever you have been doing it. So it's pretty very simple process. So now every time you log out, you can come back to the same course wherever you have left, and you can start learning those courses. So, but still, in case if you are not able to register or log in onto the course, we can do another session, or we will do a video and share it with all of you on the registration process. Hope that helps. Over to you, Anju.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Sangeeta. And in fact, I saw somebody saying we can't register using our official email address. I don't think it is so. Everybody can register using their official email address. That's how the organization would track it, right? Thank you everybody for attending the session. I want to wrap it up in the last 2 minutes, and we will all be thankful to Praveen for coming here explaining it in such a detail. We'll try and see if we can do another session for a lot of the people who missed it. And this time we'll try and see if we can do an incremental session so that it's not even repeat for the people who already attended this session. So thank you everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Anjana,
everyone.
Sangeeta,
Thank you,
Saurabh.
Praveen. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
yeah, it
Thank you,
was,
everyone.
thanks a lot. Thanks for this opportunity to share my learnings and knowledge with a broader forum. And thanks for everyone's time for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Good day. Bye bye.